Welcome to the Dealing with Goliath podcast. The mission of Dealing with Goliath is to sharpen the psychological edge in negotiation, ethical influencing, and high-impact conversations for business leaders who want to be more effective under pressure, uncover hidden value, and build greater connection, all while increasing profitability. With expert guests across the business spectrum, we deliver gems of wisdom, delving into their methods, their thinking and approach to business life and to problem solving. This is a short form espresso shot of insight podcast interview to boost business performance using our 5 questions in about 15 minutes format. My guest today is Melissa Kwan. Melissa is the co-founder and CEO of eWebinar, the leading webinar automation platform that helps companies run hundreds of sales demos, trainings, and onboarding sessions without being there. And she's on a mission to save us all from webinar hell. I love that piece, Melissa. It sounds absolutely outstanding. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. That's quite the intro.
Well, it was quite an impressive setup. As you said, our mutual friend Tom Poland introduced us. He was a huge fan of yours and your service. So he was most impressed. He's very into his webinars. And so you must have done something. So talk us through, who is your ideal client and what's the biggest challenge that they face?
Yeah, I mean, Tom also wrote the book on marketing with webinars.
Right,
So
literally, yeah.
Not only is he into his webinars, he's like the webinar guru who authors books on it. So I mean, our typical customer, I would say small business owners, or at least small businesses that, want to do a lot more content, deliver a lot more sales demos, onboarding training, but simply don't have the human capital, or even the mind share to do it themselves. So that's the biggest bulk of our customers.
That's excellent. And you mentioned, I love that. I read it somewhere in some of you, because you're an avid blogger. You produce some great content, and I was looking through some of it. But I came across, you're saving the world from webinar hell. What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, it's actually a problem that I lived with in my previous startup for 5 years. It's literally just doing the exact same webinar over and over again. So whether it be sales demos for people that come through, want a demo of your product, but not all buyers are at the same point of their buying journey, or even as a good customer, but you still have to do the demo for them. So I did a lot of that in my previous life. But then once someone signs up, you want to make sure that they're using your product and they know, how to use it and all your new features, and how are you going to teach them? So you run webinars either, once a week or once a quarter, whatever your cadence is, but it doesn't really matter how many you do. It's never enough, especially if you're selling a tech product with new people coming in every day. So I was that person that was just doing the same thing over and over again and wishing I had a solution for it. So that's what I've now coined as webinar hell, because that was my webinar hell.
I can believe it. I can understand that. Just to be clear, so our audience understand, this isn't just a video, because someone said, well, is that not just a video, Melissa? Of course it's not a video, because you've added this extra element. So what have you added? How does it increase that interaction, that functionality for you? Not having to do the webinar, you're fresh each time, and yet...
Yeah, so I think it starts with the psychology of not just going to a video, right? Everyone gets to an e-webinar by going to a registration page. Just like any online event, you put in your information, you choose a time slot, and that's not like going to YouTube and hitting play. Like, you don't go to a webinar expecting to bounce, right away. Like, you have blocked out your time and you're committed to this time slot. So it starts with the psychology. And then once you're inside the webinar experience, what makes a webinar different than a video? It's the ability to engage and ask questions with the host. Right. I don't go to a YouTube video and write a comment and expect an answer. That's just a comment. But I expect to go to a Zoom, for example, and be able to ask a question. So that's the chat piece is what we've built in. So as a host, you had the option to respond live if you happen to be there, or respond later through email if you're not there right away, and that's okay. But the other added element is we allow hosts to program in things like, what we call interactivity, right? So polls, questions, quizzes, conversion alerts, things that I guess spruce up the video, that enhances your video and delivers an engaging experience that's even better, right, than a live video experience, for example.
Outstanding. So just again, you were mentioning it's business owners. They don't want to be doing these webinars week in, week out, by way of your example, which I can completely understand and agree with. So, what are some of the common mistakes that your audience are making when they've been trying to solve this problem? What are their other alternatives there?
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake is they don't think there's an alternative.
Yeah.
Right? They don't think there's a way out. So they just keep doing it. Or they're tired of doing it and they try to hire someone else, but not everyone has that budget. And when you're hiring someone, they have many different roles. It's very, very rare that a company is big enough that they hire someone just to run webinars. Like in my history, I've probably only seen a handful of companies that can actually do that. Typically, it's a support person that does many things across the board. And then, the other mistake is they try to find makeshift solutions, right? They might record themselves and put it on, an intercom knowledge base,
Right.
that people can search, or they put it on a YouTube or Wistia, but it just doesn't have the same engagement. And you're not allowing your new customer to build a new relationship with you. You're not allowing them to go through this experience and ask you a question when they're trying to get to know your software or when they're trying to get to know your product. At the time when they need the most handholding, you're not present, right? So I think the biggest mistake is they don't think there's a way out. So they just keep doing more of these, or they're burnt out and they try to replace it with a video. But ultimately, it's not just a video, right? The medium by which you deliver content is just as important as the content itself.
Absolutely. And it scopes that experience, as you say, that you have with either your prospect or, as you said, if someone that you're onboarding or training up. And I love that people are in this 0 or 1. I either don't do it or I have to be there. And this is a beautiful synthesis, as you said, that keeps that efficiency, adding to that efficiency, which is wonderful. But it allows, as you say, that human element, that interaction. And what's some of the feedback from your clients so far? Was it as you expected? Were there some insights, some surprises that you found along the way?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest surprise that we keep hearing is people they come to us because they have a problem they want to solve, right? So maybe they don't want to do this initial onboarding over and over again. And they come to us because they want to solve that one problem. But the surprise that we keep hearing is because they're able to automate the one thing and realizing they don't have to be there, they're able to create a much wider breadth of content and much deeper set of content because no one has to be there. So we really created this to solve one problem, but then we realized people are able to do many more. So a perfect example of that is instead of one onboarding webinar that they do once a month, they're able to create many different training webinars for different people that are intermediate, beginner, or advanced. Whereas before they had to only do that one because someone had to be there.
Gotcha.
Or they're able to, another example is like, we have a company that used to do one Spanish training once a year because they only had one Spanish trainer that they had to bring in. But because of us, they are now able to do it every single day. Amazing. And they're also doing that with different product lines, whereas before they have to be very cautious about where they spend their time, right? And the other thing we keep hearing that we are also surprised by is how quickly their customers get accustomed to this kind of hybrid content. Because, before you make a change, you're like, but isn't live better? So I have to keep doing this live thing. But if you think about how we as consumers consume all content, right? All news, all text, all video content, it's all on demand. Yeah. Right? We want it at our own time. So what makes B2B content any different? Why is it that when I want to watch Netflix, I want to watch it now, but when I want to get business content, you're making me wait a week or 2 weeks. So that never really made sense. So I think the surprise is also how quickly people get accustomed to this new way of consuming content because they're actually already doing it. And because You're giving them content when they're available, right? You're not forcing them into one time slot. They stay much longer and they're more likely to engage because now they're actually committed to a time that is on their schedule, not your schedule.
That is fantastically interesting. So that you're actually often increasing engagement because of the convenience element. And it's such a good analogy when you put it like that. As you said, nobody expects to wait, to watch Netflix unless there's, a new series dropping at some particular date. But other than that, generally we don't. We want it when we want it, when it suits us. Why would it be different for B2B? You're absolutely right. And look, anyone who's listening out there, I just challenge you. If you're not thinking already all the possible applications for this, you really should be, because I love that example that people played with it. They tried it for one thing and then they just, hold on, we can also use it over here and over here. Absolutely. I mean, that's the beauty of actually recording a lot of training, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Is that you don't have to repeat yourself time and again. But I love this live element. Can you tell us a little bit more about that live element that goes with it? That's fascinating.
Yeah, so we didn't invent a new thing, right? Al, you go to any website right now, there's a little bubble that says, hey, can I help you today?
Right.
We just copied that. Like, we communicate asynchronously every second of every day. At any moment in time, we're texting our family or friends, we're on Instagram, we might send a message. We know that if we don't get a message back right away, we're not going to get angry. We know that someone's going to respond in a reasonable hour. So we literally just copied that and we attached it to a video that is on a recurring schedule. So I think there is definitely a mind, like a blockage in your mind that thinks, well, it's a webinar. So if it happens all the time and my webinars are always live, I have to staff this 24/7. Well, no, what you're doing is you're putting an asynchronous chatbot onto a video that plays so that, if someone sends you a message and you're not there, we actually have an autoresponder so people don't get pissed off. It's all about setting the right expectation. And that's why I always say, do not lie to your customers. Like, I know that there's a lot of people that leverage technology like this. We actively discourage it to trick people into thinking it's live when it's not. The whole idea of automating your content, automating your webinar is not to trick someone that it's live when it's not. It's to give them valuable educational content that will help them make an informed decision to buy your product at their own time. The moment you lie to someone is when they get pissed off. So while we do have, a chat component, we also have autoresponders that tell them, hey, I'm not here right now, but I will respond to you within the next day. And then they can just keep typing in the chat box. And so every morning I wake up and then I answer all the demo questions that I had while I was sleeping. And then, I'm always at my computer. So if a message pops up and I'm available, I get to hop in and respond live. And people are always delighted and think I'm a chatbot when I'm actually live. Like, they'll ask me, and I always say, like, if we are that good at building chat, we would be a chat company. We would not be a webinar company.
Like the real Melissa Kwan. You're speaking. We're interviewing the real Melissa Kwan, not a bot. Okay, excellent. Look, where can people actually try this out? Where can they explore more and take a demo and look into your service?
Yeah, so of course our demo is delivered through the product. There's no demo that I can do that can do a better job than our own product. So if you just come to ewebinar.com, that's like, it's spelled exactly as it sounds, ewebinar.com. There's join a demo everywhere on the site. Once you go into the demo, either myself or my team is managing the chat. So you can get a full experience of what your prospects and your customers will be seeing. And hopefully you'll like the experience. And if you have any questions, just type in the chat box and maybe I'll pop in and respond. Maybe not.
Outstanding. And I love that, as you said, go to ewebinar.com because you actually get the experience your customer prospects or new hires will actually experience themselves. So you get it's one-to-one. It's quite brilliant.
Yeah. You would be surprised how many webinar companies do not use their own product to sell their own product. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
As you said, it does raise a few questions, doesn't it? So it's, as you said, it's a fabulous point that you can put forward. Like, we use it to sell our own thing. Yeah, how meta. Fabulous. Melissa, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.
Cheers.